Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. So today, we're going to be unpacking a concept that literally drives every single successful business on the planet, and that is the true nature and scope of marketing. But real quick, right before we jump in, I want to give a massive shout out to lecturer Chithura Ganagoda. The brilliant framework, the core concepts, and all the source material we're exploring today, that was all created by him. It is just a fantastic foundation, and honestly, I'm super excited to guide you guys through it. Okay, so let's just dive right in with a super common question. When you hear the word marketing, what actually pops into your head? Do you kind of just think of it as a fancy corporate synonym for, running flashy ads or pushing a bunch of sales? Well, if you do, you're really only seeing the very tip of the iceberg. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and completely shatter that misconception right now. Think about a massive brand like Apple. Long before they ever actually sell you an iPhone, their true marketing has already covered deep user research, incredibly calculated strategy, branding, constant innovation, the whole shebang. So, selling and advertising, those are just the final tiny pieces of a much, much larger ecosystem. It's not just about the final sale, it's really about everything that leads up to it. And that brings us to a slightly more official definition. According to the Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing back in 2013, marketing isn't just some department in a building. It's actually a corporate philosophy. It is the central business function that creates value for customers through competitive, profitable, and sustainable exchange processes. The key word you really need to notice there is philosophy. It's an entire mindset that's completely dedicated to creating real, tangible value. And what's really fascinating here is how the legendary economist Theodore Levitt framed this. He said, management must think of itself not as producing products, but as providing customer-creating value satisfactions. I mean, that is a massive paradigm shift. Basically, you aren't just selling someone a drill, right? You're selling them the ultimate satisfaction of having the perfect hole in their wall. You are actively creating value that solves a real problem, and that specific mindset needs to excite literally every single person in the organization. Now, to really grasp how we got here, let's take a super quick breeze through history. So humanity basically started with a really simple, self-sufficient barter system, right? Just trading goods directly. Then came the introduction of money, which birthed the marketplace and the whole concept of selling. But today, we'd have evolved so far beyond that into this highly sophisticated, intensely customer-oriented modern marketing concept. So what does this modern concept actually look like in practice? Well, it really boils down to three core functions. First, you have to identify customer requirements. And here's the kicker. Sometimes you have to do this before the customer even knows what they want. Second, you have to satisfy and absolutely delight them. And third, you've got to constantly keep your eyes peeled to identify emerging market opportunities. Just think about how Netflix completely pivoted from mailing DVDs to streaming long before most of us even knew we wanted to stream movies. You just can never stop looking forward. Now, the absolute crucial point here is understanding how your customer actually measures this satisfaction. And honestly, it all comes down to this one really simple math equation. Customer value equals perceived benefits minus perceived sacrifice. So think about buying a really expensive pair of Nike shoes. As a consumer, you are only going to feel truly satisfied if the perceived benefits, so the comfort, the durability, that brand status, if all of that heavily outweighs the money and the effort you had to sacrifice to get them. Which brings us to a pretty major turning point in overall business strategy. Traditional marketing used to be all about the single transaction. Just make the sale, get the cash, and move on. But the modern goal, that is all about relationship marketing. This is the art of building and managing long-term relationships. Think of Amazon Prime or maybe the Starbucks Rewards app. Their goal isn't just to convince you to buy one single coffee today. It's to build a rock-solid relationship so they keep you as a loyal customer for life. And author Jim Blythe actually perfectly described the danger of ignoring this with his leaky bucket analogy. He basically noted that businesses can't just relentlessly try to refill their bucket with brand new customers while completely ignoring the existing ones that are leaking out of the bottom. In fact, he pointed out that just a 1% improvement in customer retention will lead to a massive 5% improvement in the firm's total value. That is absolutely huge. All right, so keeping all of this deep focus on the customer in mind, I want to throw a little bit of a twist your way. Who do you think a company actually has to market to first? Like, who is their absolute first market before their product ever even reaches the general public? Take just a second to think about that. Well, it's actually their own staff. This is what we call internal marketing. Because before you can ever successfully sell to the outside world, you have to sell your vision to your own employees. Companies use all sorts of tools for this, like staff magazines, team building exercises, and employee awards, basically just to ensure that their team is totally motivated, aligned, and ready to actually deliver that incredible customer value we were just talking about. Finally, let's zoom out to the biggest picture possible. Philip Kotler introduced this idea known as the societal marketing concept. If you think of brands like Patagonia or Tom's Shoes, you'll know exactly what this is. It basically states that a company shouldn't just exist to deliver satisfaction to a buyer, it must do so in a way that preserves or even enhances society's overall well-being. It's really about looking way past that immediate short-term transaction and focusing on the long-term health of our entire world. And when navigating all this, organizations really have to balance two distinct forces. On one side, you have social responsibility. This is a company's broad, overarching obligation to maximize its positive impact and minimize the negative on society as a whole. But then on the other side, you have ethics, and these are the day-to-day, individual moral decisions made by the actual people inside the company. Things like choosing to use fair pricing or committing to completely honest advertising. Which leaves us with this final, incredibly important thought to ponder today. As you continue your studies and you look at all the different brands around you, I want you to ask yourself, how can modern companies truly balance their need for relentless profitability with the ultimate well-being of our society? Definitely keep that question in mind as you continue to explore the dynamic and frankly fascinating world of marketing. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer, and as always, keep learning.